Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking a fun and interesting video for you guys today, and a very strange one at that, because I am playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but I am not playing the vanilla version of the game. I'm playing the updated version called Alternate Scarlet Symphony. It's going to start out exactly like Symphony of the Night does, and it's going to be very familiar for the first 5 or 10 minutes, but from there this game is absolutely going to turn itself on its head, and it's going to kind of feel like a Kaizo version of actual Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It is weird, it is fun. If you've played Castlevania 100 times before, this is definitely going to feel like a very fresh and new gameplay experience. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But right here in the vanilla game, you would never drop down into the ground. This is where one of the alternate areas in the Saturn version of the game was, but this was technically left in the PlayStation release, just inaccessible. A save point down here which should have led you into more levels. This is going to be the first indication that things are going to be slightly strange in Alternate Scarlet Symphony, but we're definitely going to get into a lot more of them. But just think of it this way, if you played Symphony of the Night before, if you played it more than once and you love the game, but even on repeat playthroughs, you basically know where everything is and how to do everything. This is going to completely pivot up those expectations, because the eagle-eyed among you may have just seen a hole in the ceiling right there that generally would not normally be there. You're going to start seeing some small visual indications that things are going to be very different, and then all of a sudden you're going to start seeing things are completely converted from where they used to be. If we get into this area right here, if you went up to the left, you'd usually be able to get to the first set of bosses. Get to the marble gallery as well, but suddenly there is new architecture here completely stopping you from moving up. So we can go over here, and there is a small hole in the wall that we're not going to be able to access yet until Alucard gets some of his new abilities. But if we go up, you're going to see suddenly an area that used to be later in the actual castle is going to be accessible immediately. And if you think to yourself you can kind of just cheese it and try to move left from here, that's not going to be how it works at all, because again, there is another piece of firmament there that's going to keep you from progressing. So now all of a sudden you have to go into a completely different area of the castle first, and all of a sudden you're going to be put up against some absolutely overpowered bosses and enemies right off the top that are going to make this feel like one of the hardest versions of Symphony of the Night you've ever played. And I absolutely love that, because the game feels challenging again. I remember the first time I played this game, I was probably like 13 or so, and it definitely felt hard, but now if I sit down and play it, I can beat the game in maybe a setting or two, just because I remember where everything is and I know the progression I like to take. But now in Alternate Scarlet Symphony, that progression is going to be completely ruined in all of the best ways possible, because every single time you try to go to an area where you think you're going to get a piece of equipment that's going to aid you in your quest, you're going to find out that you can't actually get there yet. There's going to be some obstruction or something else you need to do to be able to access the part of the castle that you'd normally be able to get to basically for free. And I love that as a concept. It's not creating a new game, it's not adding new levels, it's just taking the actual architecture of the castle, at least the original castle right now, and changing it up completely. The inverted castle is not done. The developer of this is basically seeing if this gets enough attention, and then they will decide whether or not to actually finish the inverted castle. But right now the entirety of the original castle is completely pivoted up, and you'll see here again, just against a boss that by the time you got here would not be hard to kill whatsoever, now is a completely different experience. And that is just so much fun, because Castlevania Symphony of the Night is a game that I wish I could wipe my memory for. I could go back in and play it for the first time like I did back in the day, and just get that sense of amazement and awe that I felt when it first came out, and I realized it was definitely one of the best Castlevania games I've ever played. That statement still rings true. So you get about as close as you possibly can in something like Alternate Scarlet Symphony, because even though the architecture is the same, even though the graphics are the same, all of the new areas in the castle that are going to force you to maneuver around are just going to be that much more interesting, because you're just going to think to yourself, I'm going to go here next, that's where I need to go, and you're going to find out there's something in your way and you need to find an alternate route around. It's basically like learning the layout of the castle all over again, except in a game that you're so familiar with. I will leave a link in the description below, both to the patch as well as to a list of everything that's changed, but it's still going to be the same great game, and it's still going to have the same great soundtrack, which is our soundtrack sample number 1. Obviously an amazing soundtrack that doesn't really need to be said, but I want you just to watch that footage and see exactly what happened in it, because that obviously was not how Vanilla Symphony of the Night would go. And that really is the fun part about this game. In some ways it almost feels like a cursed version of Symphony of the Night. Things aren't the way they're expecting to be. It basically feels like something's corrupted in the background. And I'm not trying to get to that haunted cartridge vibe of something like B3313. That's not what I'm saying. This isn't that quote unquote game that's going to kill you. It just kind of feels like something that broke, but in all of the best ways possible. And I have played relatively deep into the first castle. I haven't had any soft locks or any issues with progression whatsoever. If you can't get somewhere in the castle you think you should be able to get to, you just haven't figured out yet how to actually get there. And the architecture is just straight up hostile here in spots, and all of the enemies basically have a complete rebalancing. These tables right now just absolutely destroying Alucard. They're taking so many hits. So it is one of those things. If you've played Castlevania Symphony Night from front to back, top to bottom, and you want a new experience, something like Alternate Scarlet Symphony is going to give you exactly that. It's going to mess with you, it's going to challenge you, and it's going to frustrate you in spots because it can be incredibly difficult. Like the skeleton right here just hopping around in this pit. He's doing so much damage that you basically have to kind of stick and poke him, because again, this is not an area of the castle you would be in with just basically that rusty weapon that the original skeleton dropped. And I love that as a concept, because even trying to get past this one area right here, you basically have to time your jump perfectly, and if you get it wrong, you're going to get knocked back no matter what you do, and you end up falling right back down the pit and having to do it all over again. And that's why I said this kind of feels like Kaizo Castlevania. It's here to screw with you in all of the funniest ways. You're going to get frustrated by it, but you're going to realize you just can't kind of force your progress like you would in original Symphony of the Night. You have to be methodical, you have to kind of stick and poke, you have to read the screen in front of you and decide what is the best and safest way forward. And that really is a great time, because again, I have probably played this game 2-3 dozen times in my life. Anytime I'm kind of wondering what game should I play, maybe in January where it's cold as hell in Chicago and I can't think of anything, I put Symphony of the Night on, or I put Nocturne in the Moonlight on, and I basically just have an absolutely incredible time with it. And you will see there I'm using save states, definitely something you might want to use in this game, because your progression is going to be slow and it is going to be painful. I did test this on Mr. FPJ as well and it works perfectly fine, but this is one of those games, maybe something like Duck Station is going to be the way you want to play, because you really do have to kind of just nickel and dime your progress the entire way through. But the entire story is going to be the same. It is still Symphony of the Night, which always begs the question for me at least, why did Death not just fight Alucard right here? Why did he wait so long? Because Alucard isn't leveled up. Death should know that. It's one of those plot holes that you could drive a truck through size-wise. And leave me a comment down below, should Death have fought Alucard right here, or should it kind of just moved into the further game a little bit farther? Because I would love to see a mod where Death decided to attack right here, but obviously the storyline is the same and the voice acting is going to be the same, which is our second sound sample just for some fun voice acting, and I'll be right back with more.
Wait a moment. You seem human, and yet, what do you here?
I've come to destroy this castle.
Then we have the same purpose. I'll trust you for now. I'm Maria. Who are you?
Alucard.
Not the talkative type, I can see. Well, perhaps we'll meet again, if you live that long. Farewell.
I mean, you can't beat Castlevania Symphony of the Night voice acting. It's cheesy and effective in all of the best ways possible. But honestly, Alternate Scarlet Symphony, it's just such a fun experience, and it is so weird. It's kind of that uncanny valley level of this looks so familiar, but I know it's completely different at the same time. And if you've played Castlevania Symphony of the Night dozens of times before, there is a lot of love here. It's going to be about as close as you can get to playing the game for the first time again. And that's just something that's absolutely wonderful, because it's not like Konami's going to be giving us any new Castlevania games anytime soon. We haven't seen a 2D Castlevania release in basically forever, outside of the remake of the arcade game that we got last year, and I hope that sold well enough with the collection for people at Konami to start thinking, hey, maybe it's time to give people a new 2D Castlevania game. I'm not saying it's going to be Symphony of the Night too, but I would love to see another Metroidvania game in this franchise. But in the meantime, something like Alternate Scarlet Symphony has you covered, just giving you a wild new experience. And trust me, if it looks a little bit corrupted, that's because that's how it's supposed to look. You're going to find a lot of weird things in the castle, and you're going to have a fun time exploring them. Leave me a comment down below, did you even know this thing existed? Because I did know it was out there, but recently I saw it updated with a lot more complete version, so I figured it was video time. But trust me, it's hard, it's going to kill you, and it's going to drive you nuts in all the fun ways. See you guys next time. Bye bye.